Board of Directors meeting in order. Okay. Let's start with attendance. Marta?
Here.
Emily?
Here.
Paul? Here. Jack? Here. And Brad is here too. So we have a quorum. We will proceed. Let's do our opening invocation and pledges of allegiance. Will you join me and standing for those items? Heavenly Father, we thank you for the country we live in. We thank you for the freedoms we enjoy and the opportunity to participate in the governance of our country, our community. We ask that you guide us tonight in the tasks that are before us, that all that would be done in orderly, and you would open our eyes to the truth, and we would make wise decisions that best serve our community. We pray these things in Christ's name. Amen. Pledge to the American flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, one indivisible.
Justice for all.
Honor the Texas flag, to be Texas, one state, under God, one indivisible.
That's
First mistake of the night. That's weird. Yeah, got other things I'm on. Comments from the public? No? Okay. Request for adjustments? Consent agenda? Items 5 through 10. Any questions on the content or requests for changes? And have a motion that we approve the consent agenda as published then?
I make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Seconds. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Okay, good. Moving on to regular agenda, item 11, our 2025/2026 operating budget. I think Eric should go walk us through. Maureen's got a most recent copy. Let me provide some opening comments. So there's been a lot of discussions going on among some of going back with some of the board with Water Authority. And I want to say thanks to you guys for generating numbers and helping us better understand what's in here. When we look at the budget, there are several factors that go into it. Basically, we got our expenses and our revenues driven by our service rates that we get for providing water and treating wastewater. We have a tax rate, which provides revenue via the tax bill. Then we have expenses that are mainly monthly items that are ongoing expenses for operations. And then we have improvement and repair items. At the end of the day, we want those to balance within a certain amount. And we also have a reserve fund that we have. As a board, everybody's got different opinions about what's the most important thing. I'd like to have a discussion about what's important to different people and make sure everybody's heard, and we can decide then what combination of things result in the best budget for MUD 7. Questions about the budgeting process, or you guys want to comment more on the background?
I'm not sure which would be easier to just get into that or get into this. It's gonna have to, I think it just comes together.
Yeah.
Maybe we go back and forth.
Yeah.
What Brad said is exactly right. And so what we try to do when we look at the budget, we can't affect tax rate from the standpoint of going up, and we don't have anything to do with appraisal. So that is what it is. Y'all set the rate. It is what it is. Water rates, we can do something about. What we've typically done, well, since I've been here, we did a water and sewer rate analysis back in 2023 that identified an increase in rates in 2024. So that's kind of the revenue side. So that's our ends, are basically our revenue end. And then, of course, some districts have the ability to sell bonds, but that hasn't been used, for here in a while. Then we look at expenses. And as you mentioned, there's day in, day out stuff. And then here recently, you've heard of a couple larger items that that you could decide to pay cash for instead of raising a rate, or like, for instance, the bigger estuary items with the water lines and the sewer plant, those things for, I think, probably all districts are beyond being able to cash flow any of that stuff. But things like what I presented last month, like the ditch, when you're talking about, you specifically having, just over 12, 13-month reserve, and we propose some ditch work that does need to be done, you kind of look at that reserve. And that reserve is the number of months of cash that you have to cover your budget. So theoretically, if you have 12 months of reserves, then you have exactly 12 months, you have exactly the amount of cash that you would need to fund the annual budget, right? So everybody knows that, right? So where is that? Well, depending on the life cycle of mud, if you're in the early stages, let's say, of a mud, the early years of a mud, and everything's new and it's not really breaking, regularly, you probably could get away with some lower reserves. But as you get older and your tax rate goes down, you would need to look at that reserve maybe a little closer. And with what we have going on across the woodlands with the ditches, we've got the dam, we've got a number of other things kind of in the mix. We take that into consideration when we look at more of the capital projects that we put in the mud budgets. So for instance, last year, we knew that ditches were likely going to happen. We didn't know the per district amounts until we got done with the assessment, which we've been doing this year, but we knew that there was going to be some work. So what do? We put the large diameter water meters in last year's budget, knowing that we would likely balance that out with some ditch work. And keep in mind, there's certain things that pop up that we can't see coming. We didn't even know that the dam, was going to need some extra money. So that's brand new. And so where does that fit in? So we kind of look at that and say, okay, do you put it in this year? Well, when are the funds necessary? And so we said, well, the funds for the construction portion of that project aren't necessary in this fiscal year. Likely will be needed next year. But what about the engineering? The engineering is needed now. And so we put that into the budgets for the 5 stakeholder muds, recognizing that other muds are probably joining in on the construction side, but not wanting to cloud that issue, just focusing on the engineering now. So we put engineering in there, but we pulled the construction out. That will be an expense one day, but doesn't need to be in this. So you need to take that into consideration in your planning, right? So if you're looking at your months of reserve, okay, and you've got a hit next year with something coming, you might take that into consideration in how you look at your revenue side of things, or adjust, the expense side on some of the projects perhaps. So that's kind of the juggling that we have to do to get a budget that, ideally doesn't have a deficit, an annual deficit, even if you're chewing into reserves, you might want to do that. You could do that in a given year, as long as you know that you're going to dig yourself out and get back to your goals, if that's 12 months. So that's kind of what goes into it from our perspective. So in this budget, the one that you got in the packet last week, we put in a worst case for the dam construction, recognizing that it probably wasn't going to be needed this year, and it was likely going to be a smaller number once other muds participated. So the new one that you just got took that out. That was about 360 some odd thousand. But if you look at line item on the front page of the budget, 5480, you'll see 40,600 to 800. That is for your portion of the 500,000 engineering necessary to get the 5480. GL code 5480.
Okay.
So right beside that, you see in October, 40,800. So that's for the engineering, your portion of the 500,000 engineering necessary to do the service and auxiliary spillways of the dam.
What's the 21?
21.2, that was not in there, but we didn't put there's an annual maintenance to the dam just altogether. And this year it was 260 divided by the participants. We didn't have that in there. So that's why it didn't go to complete zero. But that's what those two numbers are.
So in the future, if these other MUDs decide to share the expense, will they as well share the maintenance costs of the dam?
I mean, that's up for debate, but likely, I mean, I can't answer that today. I don't know.
Okay.
We were diving into a debate of who's in, who's out, and there was arguments, and I said, we need to get the engineering rolling. We can't be debating this while the engineering is held up. So I wanted to separate that this month, get the stakeholder months focused on the engineering. That's going to take a year or so. And during this next few months, we can come back to who's in, who's out, how much, and not cloud this or slow the project down.
And that'll be a future budget decision.
It will.
Those funds are not needed in this time period.
Correct.
Right.
So we're comfortable, we should be very comfortable that we're funding our share of the engineering, we're funding our share of the regular maintenance.
Case.
No, this is not a worst case. This is the best.
If the others don't
expected
share.
case.
It's
Well,
worse.
No,
We're gonna do the
This is
bigger
our point.
cost next time.
Your worst case share, if no one else participated next year, was I think $367,000.
yeah, so that's a next year discussion.
Your decision.
But I don't even think that number is going to be accurate because we do know that there's a couple months for sure that are going to put money in.
We also haven't done engineering, which may.
Exactly. Yeah, there's some variables there, sure.
Thank us very much.
For a mud our size, I know, was it 15 or 18 months to have reserve? I know we were last year in this discussion, we were trying to make sure we were getting over the year hump, but it really wasn't right at a year. We're looking a little bit further because of all the potential
Yeah.
support on our.
The way I look at it is what are the assets you're responsible for? If we were sitting here and you had your own water plant, your own treatment plant, like a normal mud, then I would.
Right.
What? Well,
We're not normal, is that what you're telling us? I'm sorry.
you don't have those things, honestly. Just from a cost perspective, yeah, you're sharing in these things, but with the other mud. But, I would probably, for an aging mud that had its own facilities, I'd probably push for something higher, 18, maybe even more. But you don't have those things. But what you do have is you have ditches. You have your share of some of these other things. And we kind of have to balance how we're going to pay for some of those things. I'd love to cash fund everything, but that's just not going to be feasible with the size of certain projects coming down the pipe. Okay, so you got to decide, okay, which things do I really not going to put in here? And which things would I pass through in a tax bill or a water bill and, move rates to grow revenue to cover those bigger things, right? That's going to be a future discussion. But to answer your question, I think that we would feel relatively comfortable if we were at 12 months or so. I wouldn't, and if we had to dip below it for a year but bounce back, if we had some expenses, I want to make sure that ultimately we want to have reserves so we can do those projects that we need to do that we could theoretically cash fund and not raise rates. So if you have to dip down a little bit because you're actually doing work and doing improvements to the system, I'm okay with that as long as we have a plan to kind of get back if it's just temporary. So that would be my recommendation, is to look at 12, give or take, 1 or 2 months.
So we're there.
And I guess the other thing that's important is not only the number of months, but the actual cash value
That's
in
right.
your reserve. So you're looking at what is your contingency? What would cause you to go into reserves? Well, a major ditch failure. Well, we had one of those. And it was 700. Well, it was estimated to be 750, but it's probably 500, 400 or 500. Okay. Well, we got almost 4 million in our reserves. I can fund a major ditch thing.
It hits it, but it doesn't bankrupt you.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Okay. If you're a small mud that has a much smaller budget than this, you may need 18 to 24 months so that you can cover those major expenses.
Yeah,
Conversely, if you're
your budget might be only 700,000.
Yeah.
We have one, right? And so then that smallest little ditch hit hits them a lot harder than it does that had someone who has a couple million in the bank.
And in the same way on the big ones.
Yeah.
The big ones, if you had a much bigger budget than us, do you really want to have $10 million in reserves just because that's 12 months of your basic normal operating expense? So
Yeah, I
There's
mean,
a-
theoretically, you have more assets at that point because you're bigger, but do you really need to hold that? That's right. You're kind of in a sweet spot size wise because, 3.8,
3.8.
and for a district this size, that's decent. That's 12 months. I think you can feel comfortable that, bumps in the night are covered. And still have money to do what you need to do.
So, I guess going to kind of move this along, you want to map the draft from last time to what we now have as final and then changes, or do you want to just kind of start at the top and like you did when we did the draft, start with the tax rate and kind of walk us through things that are subject to discussion? How do you want to?
So I think the only thing that actually even changed besides the dam stuff down in that line item was some GIS stuff that we added that I think we had 50,000 and we added 75,000, or we added it up to 75,000. So for the district, all the districts, it was, about a $5,000 difference. It wasn't much. I think that was the main change from what you saw last month. None of these other things. We did put one more month of actuals into the budget just because we have them. But all the other things stayed the same. So the one that you saw had $397,000 for the dam worst case in that line item 5480.
The one we saw in
Last couple weeks, yeah,
August?
no, last week.
But
Friday.
the one from August.
Yeah, so the one from August, all that has in it is the engineering for the dam and the 21, that same line item is the main change that occurred.
This is what's changed.
Well, I'm trying to understand how we went from 12.5 months reserve to 11.5 months reserve. That's what I'm trying to understand.
Is it a percentage of the total budget?
The expenses are that same 60,000 change. It looks like the revenue is definitely the big,
It went.
the big change. Wait, hold on.
3.4 to
4.1.
3.1.
Well, no, that only went up about 560, 551, 40. Went up a little bit.
You don't have ending cash because interest is calculated. So it's hard to predict what we're gonna end the year with. That's
So
what started
it
off.
wasn't what we were spending or revenue, it was adjustments for the end of the year for
Yeah.
the starting point.
Yeah, that feeds into that beginning and then interest is calculated and it kind of all goes from there, half a month, 1 month. It's not very unusual to have
Yeah,
change.
and Eric, that's what I was struggling with. What spending changes, what decisions did we make that drove us from 12.8 months to 11.5 months? And I couldn't map that.
Where's that laid out in the August one, the months?
It's not. I'm just gonna,
When you look at these numbers, I mean, it looks like the interest came down about 15K, so the revenue went down 15K. And expenses are pretty close. It doesn't look like there were any material changes in the
Right.
revenue and expenses.
well, but our reserves went from 12.8 to 11.5.
Where did the 12.8 come from? Because that's what I don't see.
Well, it's on the second page from the August meeting.
No, that's that's today.
Oh, you mean that thing? I don't think they had these.
August meeting had two pages, had just the
I don't have that in front of me, but
I must not have the second page.
Well, Bear
Okay.
Branch changed a lot.
okay, so it wasn't,
we put that, like I said, we increased the GIS budget slightly, but that was split across all the MUDs. It was very minimal. And then put the 60,000 in here this month for the dam,
The dam
for
changed.
the engineering and the
Okay.
maintenance.
Maybe it's in the form of the calculation, whatever is,
I think it's a true up of the year in expectation for where we in
Could be.
the current fiscal year. I think that's, and that's what I was trying to understand, okay? So if we go back and we understand because adding the 40,000 engineering for the dam shouldn't cause the reserves to drop by 1.3 months.
I did a calculation just comparing the tax rates, and $47,000 was the difference. And with my calculation, it dropped it from 12.2 to 12.1. So it'd be pretty minimal.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that kind of decrease has to be significant.
Now it's 62. Yes, but here's your 500.
Is from truing up the 2025 actuals.
That's really different. Than the
Is that?
numbers.
Yes, I think it all could all net out to what we've seen today.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's-
I don't think it's in-
Some things went up, some things went down.
Yeah, the calculation.
So if I can,
This is changed.
I want to be
Yeah.
totally transparent on what we're doing. The starting point is the tax rate. We had a sheet in the August package that showed the proposed tax rate and what the parity tax rate was. This budget is based upon the maximum, taking the tax rate to the maximum allowed without having a required low back. The differences in those are would be 106, 585 versus 103, 200. And as a group, how do we feel about going up to what is in the base right now, which is the maximum, which is what we published, because we can go down, but we just can't go up. So we published the max. And with expenses we've got projected, that gives us a 11.5 month reserve.
In my calculation, I calculated the revenue difference is 47,000.
Mm-hmm.
And that would take the reserve down. In my case, it was 12.2 to 12.1, so maybe it's 11.5 to 11.4.
Okay.
That's what I calculated.
So at the end of the day, we vote as a group on the total budget, but it's made up of components. Are we comfortable? Do we see an advantage of staying at the 106 versus going to the 103? The challenge is we have ongoing expected expenses based upon, the dam work that we know is coming up. We have some aging infrastructure. And the really big things like the water line replacement and the whatever happens at treatment plant 1 will probably be separately funded through a bond, okay? Or an increase in rates. It won't, service rates, it won't be a minor twitch or tuning of the tax rate. Jack's done the calculation. If we go down to the parity rate, we'll lose $47,000 in revenue, and that'll take our reserves down another 0.1. So we'd end up 11.4 versus 11.5.
That will create a deficit on your annual budget of like $1,000 or $2,000. So it'd be pretty close. Your ending cash or net loss for the year would be basically 46,000, 45,900 at the bottom. That would create a
Yeah, so you'd be
basically
Create a wash.
equal, okay? I'm looking for input from the board. Uh, I see advantages to leaving it at the 106, which is in the base case. I also see some advantages to dropping it down to 103.
I'd like to leave it where it is, what we posted, you know.
I'd like to drop it down and not pass a tax increase on to our residents.
Just, I think,
$27,000 isn't that much.
but it is something. I think we should keep it. We're just facing a lot of expenses in the next several years. And it would be unfair for us to just suddenly pile it on. This is kind of a slow, steady. A budget, it can be budgeted.
A nickel and dime the taxpayers. That's what you're doing when you do that.
Why do you say that?
Because you keep just incrementally adding to the cost.
I think that's realistic.
How? I mean, isn't the cost right now, the rate is what we're talking about? You're talking about lowering it.
Yeah, but
Emily, we're passing along the maximum tax increase we can pass with
Right.
the appraisals. So we're still increasing taxes is most biggest amount we can do.
Understood.
Which means $400 to each taxpayer a year?
No, I think it's a lot less than that.
Yes.
$15.22 on the average home.
that was in the earlier package.
Yeah, currently the rate that was published is about point 0.4 reduction. So the going to the parity would be a 0.00,
It's another 3.
another 0.03, yeah. So you're proposing a lower tax rate, but to what Jack's saying is the appraisals are, pulling that.
So the rates in the base does not offset the appreciation in the properties. So we're gonna get more revenue, $47,000 more revenue. If we go to the parity, which keeps the revenue the same, we'll give up that $47,000 in revenue and we'll limit we'll be limited by the maximum we can set without having an election.
What you're saying then is that the appraisal rate will bring us more revenue because they always go up.
No, the appraisal rate is what's driving the additional revenue. We're dropping the rate down to avoid a rollback election, or not dropping it down to parity. So in essence, because the appraisals went up, we are raising taxes, even though we're dropping the rate.
We're generating,
So
so
we're
we
still
need,
gonna generate more income based on the appraisals going up.
Yeah.
we separate tax rate versus tax revenue.
So
We're-
whether we drop it or not, they will pay more.
No, if we go to the parity rate, which is a
Whatever.
103,
103 even?
103, 200.
The number that's been proposed, right, is the minimum that we can go down in order to avoid a rollback election.
But that caps you at 3.5% increased revenue. That's your capped at that. That keeps you right at that.
And the appraisals went up about 7.1%, something like
Something
that.
like that, yeah.
Yeah, so there was split the difference here.
In the current budget year, it's immaterial almost. Okay, $47,000 on a budget of 5 million. Okay. It's more meaningful on what is the future implication of you can always continue to drop in the future, but you can never put it back up. Okay. Appraisals continue to go up. We'll have the 3.5% growth every year. Okay, appraisals don't go up, we'll have some issues.
Correct me if I'm wrong, the appraisal stayed flat. Don't we have the option to raise the rate, but we just have it capped by what, 3.5% or whatever? So you still have the option to raise the rate.
But only up to the 3.5%. Yeah.
Right.
3.5 off your previous year. So if you bring it down,
Correct.
then you limit the ability, what that 3.5% is off of. for next year.
Understood. Thank you.
So, you know, from a tax rate, we are going down on tax rate. From a tax revenue, we're asking the average homeowner to pay $14 more a month. That's gonna be a year. So, thank you. Thank you. Per year. Okay. It sounds like we've got some various opinions. It sounds like we've got a majority that would like to stay where they are at the 106. Is
I
that
would
what
make a motion that we do that, leave it at the one.
So I think right now we're on the budget item, so we would need to, if you want to revise what the rate ultimately is, I know we're kind of, it's impossible not to intermingle item 14 and item 11, but here, if you're going to make a motion that would impact the tax rate, you're essentially making a motion to adopt a revised budget that includes maintenance tax revenue based on parity rate. Or maintenance
Table that
tax
discussion, do the other one and come back out and.
deductible. Yeah, we can. If y'all want to go ahead and move on to the tax rate, then come back to the budget.
Okay,
By adopting the rate.
Go back.
yeah, that's really,
And that just,
I
then we
mean,
approve the budget based on the adopted rate of 106.
Yeah.
Then you wouldn't have to make two motions.
Still gonna make two motions, but it's a little bit cleaner.
I don't know if I can do that. It's complex.
are you only have so many motions per meeting?
Yeah, and don't be throwing two at once. So I would
Okay.
want a motion.
So let's turn to page 25 then.
Yeah, so we need to go, we need to conduct a public hearing before we would consider the motion on the tax.
Oh, do we? I thought we could go down. With
Oh, you're talking about on the tax rate? I feel, so for regardless of whether you're going down to parity or below parity, you, regardless of your tax rate, you still have to conduct a public hearing. You don't have to conduct an election, which is, I think, what you may be thinking about. But we still have to do the hearing where you adjourn the regular meeting, open the public hearing to comments, and then close the public hearing.
We don't have to post ahead of time.
No, it's part of the agenda. That is the posting.
So if we have a motion just to stay at 106,
Before we do that, we still have to conduct.
oh, we still have to
That's a
do,
public hearing, yes. Public has to have the right.
Yeah, we gotta do the public
Okay.
hearing.
okay,
Yeah, I mean, 99% of the time, it's a non-issue, but we still have.
You have a full house here.
So under item 13, we need to recess the regular meeting and open the public hearing for any comments regarding the district's published tax rate. And that was published in the Conroe Courier, correct? And that was at the rate of 0.106585. Any comments from the public on the published tax rate? Being no comments from the public, we can close that public hearing. All right. Now we can move on to item 14 and consider an act on the levy of the district's 2025 tax rate. So now is when we can consider a motion on the tax rate.
okay. So we have a
The
motion,
motion,
we have a,
Motion for what rate?
106.
What was published?
yeah, as published.
Okay.
As
Okay.
I second the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? No.
0.106585.
So that keeps us. Now we're done with item 14. We're back to item 11. And we're looking at what was handed out, which has the 106,585. So we set that. We've got the engineering required for the dam. And I guess the next big thing is the ditch work. So this completes all the proposed ditch work, only threes. Okay, which is different than what was in the That's what was in August also? So how much ditch work are we carrying over to 2027 then?
Sorry?
How much ditch work are we carrying over to 2027?
Don't know. I mean, I'm not proposing that the twos become threes in 1 year.
Can you define threes?
Here's some pictures of some threes.
I mean, that you're talking about severity,
Yeah. That means
It's three.
significant sinkholes.
but three is the worst severity.
Three is the worst, yes. And so twos, it could be 1 to 5 years down the road. I mean, if it was close to a 3 or a 3, we would put it as a 3. And so these are examples of threes. And these aren't all of them. This is probably a third of them. I mean, Mud 7 definitely had the worst condition ditches in the woodlands. And that's not something that I take lightly, but the reality is there's a lot of work to do, you know? I guess to answer your question, I don't see that as a next year thing.
Okay.
I don't.
So,
Now, does one of those twos become threes? There's a possibility. Do all of them? No, I'm telling you right now, I don't believe that would happen. But there's more work to be done and that's one of the things that we were gonna do when we finish our 10-year plan. We're gonna incorporate the twos, probably put them in the year 4, 5, 6 mark, to keep, you know, an eye on them.
so you look at 5300.12 and .15, or excuse me, .14. You have 367 and 404. How much of that is one-time work?
So that's about 770,000, about 660 of it is one-time work.
How much?
600.
660 is the one-time. So the proposed budget has us completing all the
It's about
Threes.
threes,
620.
And some.
620,
Yeah.
620, okay. So that would be a one-time expense that's built into this,
I don't see it.
and I wouldn't observe that. That's what's partly driving the,
I don't think it's broken out, Eric, is it?
Is it,
Is it broken out that way in this sheet?
So you've got 5,312.12 and 5,300.14.
Those two.
That,
oh, okay,
so
700.
367. So what Brad's point is if you add those two up, it's like 770,000 or
Right.
770,000.
Right?
No, it's 771,000.
367.
Oh, 367,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I'm seeing the 87.
So there is a portion of that is ongoing that we keep in the budget every year. It's not related to specific to this heavier work. There's mowing involved in other areas. What is it?
Just very small portion.
Yeah, they're small. But to Brad's point, about 620 of the 770 is one time.
And that's contributing to us going below 12 for the reserves. If we didn't have this as a one-time expense, we would be above 12,
Yeah,
okay?
for sure.
So I don't like, I don't think 12 is a magic cliff, but I think if we as a group say, nominally, we want to be around 12, and we need to understand why are we going below 12. And this is the explanation of why we're going below 12, because we're spending $620,000 on one-time, basically catch-up work that hasn't been done over the last 2 decades, probably, or at least 1 decade. Okay. So you could argue, you could propose or discuss, would you like to keep the reserves at 12 months and pace the 620? Okay. And that's, to me, I just pay it, understand why I'm below 12, get it over with, and then move on.
I concur with that.
Okay.
There's only, most of the rest of this stuff, just sort of ongoing cost.
Yeah, it's
It's traditional ongoing cost.
traditional maintenance. Last year, like for instance, your Water service, repair was a lot higher. It's going down because we did a lot of those meters, so kind of last year we ramped up on something and that's coming down. This year, ditches, that'll come back to normal, those types of things. It comes and goes, just depends.
There's always something.
And there's the unforeseen things and we can't plan on that. What we try to do is plan enough in these budgets to cover a bump in the night or two, best we can. We don't know how many water line breaks we're gonna have. We don't know how many service line breaks we're gonna have. We look at historical data, try to make an estimate.
We don't know how dry it's gonna be or how
We don't.
wet it's gonna be.
All the above. That's the revenue side, right?
Yeah.
So if it's a dry year, the revenue side is better. If it's a wet year, now our revenue's down. So, and we can't control that either. So there's a lot of fluid
All
things.
this discussion, it may not rain for 6 months.
Oh, come on.
You'll be swimming in the water, swimming in the money.
Yeah. Except for your personal water bill would be.
The bill, yeah.
So, Jack's asking a question on the third page here. He's like, what am I looking at? What you don't look, probably the best picture, this page 3, bottom right, probably is the easiest way to look at this because you're looking right. So right under here is the actual apex or the top of bank where the bank comes up and curves, right? On the right here. There's 20 feet back of that.
Should be
Yeah,
drivable.
trees.
That should be drivable. We should be able to, there's a 20 feet minimum back here that we can't even get to. So a lot of, and here, see, it's all to the top. We can't even access some of the ditches or some of the problem area 3 pipe work because we can't even get to it.
The overgrowth.
Prune the trees.
That's
Push them back, yeah.
Push them
Yeah, it's not heavy clearing. This is heavier than a lot of the areas. Some is minimal, some is more. Those are some of the worst. But there's a lot of that in Mud 7, a lot of that. In fact, I suggest we do that first. Then we can get to some of these other repairs physically. Because we may need to bring in, a dump truck or heavier equipment I don't want to ride on that bank. I'd rather ride up on top. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I just don't have room today to do it.
It's unsafe.
Oh, that too. It'll tear up the ditch.
So we add the 620 in, we get all the threes done. We drop our reserves to 11.5. Next year, we don't have the 620, but we will have the dam work, which is estimated to be less than 400. So that gives us an extra 220 to increase our revenues. next
Everything
year.
else.
Everything else is balanced, okay?
And we
You
still
can help us.
on the twos, right?
No, the twos are on hold. There's just a watch, knowing that over the next 10 years, we will feather them in as they move from twos to threes.
All the twos will get to this point, but it's not next year. That's my point earlier. Yeah, it's just,
Okay.
it'll get there, but it might be, like, for instance, a good way to, look at this page 2. From 5 o'clock to 7 o'clock on that pipe is gone. It's gone. Whereas a 2 might be that maybe there's a couple like holes like this big that you're starting to see in the flow line, right? Now, I don't really necessarily want to let them get in
Yeah, you
here.
know,
So, and what's really bad is if this happens on top, now you have sinkholes. So it just depends on how it progresses.
So these, I wanted to ask about page 2 that, excuse me. And you answered that it's scoured at the bottom. It just seems odd. I always thought it was more about the rushing waters that scoured. It seems to be just having water sitting in it and average kind of flow.
Perhaps, yeah.
Eats the bottom out.
Yeah, the bottom 2 pictures there are related. That's a yardstick that you can barely see shoved in the ground. That's a 36-inch wooden stick. And the daylight that you see in the middle picture there is from that hole.
From the top,
Yeah, so there's in the top of the pipe.
waiting for the dirt.
Just wait. Yeah, and well, the sinkhole, the fact that we can put that stick there, any given day, whether you put a foot in there, at some point, it's gonna go whoosh, whoosh, whether there's a person on top or equipment or whatever. It's just a matter of time.
Wow.
Because like, for instance, you can see on page 1, it has happened. I mean, that's over the top of a pipe
Right,
and it's just caved in.
Wow.
Near the golf course.
a lot of work.
Same by this residence house. You can see the sinkhole,
Oh,
Starting. the bottom
Yeah.
one. Just, the twos will get there. It's just, I don't think I think we got some time there.
2026.
So any other questions about the budget? I think we've covered the big one-time items. We covered the tax rate. We covered the reserves. Any questions, comments people want to make?
The only question would be, if we approve this, at some point in time, we decide that we want to defer some of this work out because of the expense, we still have that flexibility and option. Let's say 8 months from now, for whatever reason.
Yeah, I mean, let's say there was a unusually wet and our revenue went down. I think they would provide us some guidance to say, hey, we're about to go low on revenue. It's gonna be low on reserves because revenue's down. Let's talk about what work needs to, we could defer.
Okay.
I mean, this is not an authorization, it's just to go spend.
And candidly, this ditch work, this is an aggressive schedule. We're gonna be coordinating with some contractors and our new crew that was approved. We got to get them hired up. I mean, it's aggressive. It's gonna be difficult probably. And it's not just Mud 7's work. I mean, other MUDs have similar work. And we're gonna be working through all of those, various things, gonna try to get more bang for the buck by doing, items that are close to each other and those types of things. But, and then we're gonna do as much as we can in-house, which will save money. But it's aggressive. We may not get all of it done. We're gonna try.
Do I, with no other questions, do I have a motion that we approve the budget that's dated 9/16 at 16/19, which is the last one that was handed out?
I make the motion that we approve the budget as listed on, what is that?
1.3.
1619 print time on 9/16/25.
That's why we put those times there, because it changes a lot sometimes.
Do I have a second?
Second.
I second that.
Okay, we have 2 seconds. That's great. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay. And thank you again, Lorraine and Eric, for your patience as we better understand this and make sure we have clarity on the options. And
It's been good dialogue. I appreciate it. Thank you.
we have now finished 11. We've also finished 14, but I think there's some policy stuff. Eric, you're going to do item 12?
12, yes. So policy RNS 12 is the policy that prescribes the water and sewer rates. So there's no prescribed retail water and sewer rate increases this year. Recall that the GRP water rate was decreasing by 5 cents. So that needs to be documented and approved for reduction of that 5 cents. And then I presume if there's, Brian, if there's additional drop in that due to the settlement and whatever comes out, that we would have to reduce this again if that happened.
Wouldn't have to, I mean, that would be at the discretion of the board.
Well, I mean, if the board chose
Yeah.
to pass that through.
Correct.
Yeah, and I mean, to be transparent, if the River Authority drops their cost to us, we should be,
Yeah, I mean, I know that's not on the agenda today,
Yeah,
but just to be clear that it's not,
legally
legally
required.
obligated.
Yeah,
It's a
yeah.
policy decision.
Yeah. So do we have a motion to approve pages 23 and 24 and move forward with these rates as shown on page 24? Make sure you're looking at the column that includes the MUD 7. Okay. So the only change from last year is the 5 cent drop in the 292, 297. I need a second. I need a motion.
So moved.
Okay, I have a second.
Second it.
All in favor of approving the rates for water services as documented pages 23 and 24, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Thirteen, we've done, I believe. Right, Brian? We did that before we did 14. We're done with 14. You have 15 also.
15 is the amendment to your district information form that's reported in the property records that has factual information about the district, including your tax rate. Also attached to the diff is the notice to purchasers that folks receive when they buy property in the district. Usually get it twice, once when they go under contract and they get it again at closing. That notice also lists what your current tax rate is. So we need to amend this form to reflect your 2025 tax rate, both on the form itself as well as on the notice to purchasers. And that's the document up there that's got to be signed by all 5 directors. Tabs for everybody.
This one, okay.
Well, that's everything that needs to be signed. One of the documents in there is the DIP
Okay.
amendment that has to be signed by all the directors.
Page 25 in the packet. Order levying taxes.
No, that's what we already did. The DIP is
Okay, this is the,
very simple. I don't think we included it.
nothing in the packet, just there. Yeah.
We need a motion. Have a motion to approve as described by Brian. And we'll take time when we finish to circulate this for signatures.
The published tax rate, diff. I'll motion to approve.
Yeah. Have a second?
I'll second it.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Ed, I think you're
Yes.
Chris for a couple minutes.
I am. Good evening. Our report starts on page 27, I believe, 25. No, 27,
You said.
sorry. The report probably looks a little different than what y'all are used to seeing. There's a little more information. At the very front, there's a summary of what transpired over the month. Basically, the ratio of groundwater surface water is 50-50, which is what the goal, what was in the budget. The Woodlands Division celebrated 50 years of service to the Woodlands development, to the MUDs. And so we produced a few articles on, videoed them on Facebook, and so you can see who the celebrities are. The graph at the bottom kind of shows you the distribution of the water over the months. At the bottom of page 28 is the water accountability. And you can see it's a little bit above what we had anticipated it to be for the year. We had budgeted for 4% and it's at 5.1. Page 29 gives you some regulatory information on our wastewater system and the flow graphs for each of the sewer plants. A couple of people have mentioned that our wastewater permits expire in 2027. Normally it takes a year in advance of that to prepare the permit renewal and then submit it. And then 6 months included in that 1 year is the TCQ review of that draft permit. So we will be starting that sometime next year to get that going. The next pages show some work orders and maintenance hours that we spent in FY25 throughout the system. And then the next couple of pages are project related, gives you the an update on where we are. And then on page 37, we start, we have our GRP, or Surface Water Program monthly report. So it gives you an idea of where we are on delivering of surface water to the various entities and bonds in the financials, very brief financial statement. Be happy to answer any questions you may have.
You mentioned the water loss.
Yes.
We didn't meet our objective for this fiscal year. What are we using? Are we still using the floor for
Or
going forward? So we still need to get that back down. Do we, I mean, certainly we have months where it's, within 4 looks reasonable. September, June, and August look challenging, particularly September, June. Do we feel good that going in the next fiscal year, we will meet the 4, or I think we're,
It all depends on leaks. I hate to say it, but
yeah,
because
okay.
everything else can be accounted for, the flushing that we do, at whatever, elevated storage tank that might occur or, assist. And this is a combined between Woodlands Water Agency and us. So it's total. So if they have leaks, we have leaks, that, we can estimate what those volumes are, but we can't predict how many leaks we're gonna have or breaks.
I guess the longer term trend, we're showing a step change when we put in the new meters.
Correct.
And now the concern is that step change, are we gonna have to get part of that step change back? Or you think we'll line out down at the 4?
That's kind of a Ouija board
Yeah, okay.
answer.
Okay.
I'm sorry to say that, but, unaccounted for water loss is very unpredictable. And I will tell you,
Well,
Woodlands, all the systems I've worked with over the last 47 years, most of them don't even get below 10.
right, yeah, that's the highlight, as we communicate to the public.
Right.
We're disappointed we're not at 4, but 5 is a very
5 is still
leading
good enough.
edge.
For
Good
a
number.
system this age.
Oh, yeah.
That's the other huge variable. I mean, yeah, you can be that tight when you're a 5-year-old system, but to be as tight as we are at this
Well,
age.
that's a testimony to the quality of maintenance that's been done. So, yeah. The feedback I'd give you guys, appreciate you adding more trends. I know you got that feedback and you added that in. On the projects, pages 32 and 33, you're still carrying town center line renewal and easements as 2 different projects, but I thought we kind of combined those.
We did that last month and,
So the financials are still separate, or,
yes,
okay. Do we expect to see those 2 combined?
should be soon. We're still, let's see. We should at our SRA board meeting next week approve the contract for, the engineering to move forward. So once that's done, it'd be easier to make the track transition.
Could you kind of talk about this disinfection byproduct study?
Yes, ma'am. This is, I'll say, preemptive work in the sense that Woodlands Muds have, over the years, asked about going to a greater percentage of surface water. Surface water comes in, and I'm no chemist, but what I've been told is when you have more surface water, we have an alkalinity problem at our wastewater plants. And so we have to do some treatment at the sewer plants to change that alkalinity to be able to discharge into the streams. And so this study is to basically run through the traps of, okay, how much surface water can we deliver before we have to start doing additional treatment at the sewer plant, and also treatment within our elevated in-ground storage tanks, because water age and mixing of disinfectant products.
So when you say the Woodlands is asking for a higher percentage, who exactly is asking for that?
I have many directors that ask for it. We started at 65% back in the day. and
Okay.
We've been hovering at 50% the last few years.
Correct.
I get questions all the time from directors. Why not 60? Why not 70? Why not 80? Why? And so what I've been told is when we were at 65, that for the reasons that Ed just mentioned, disinfection byproducts, triomethanes, certain things, that there was additional infrastructure that would be needed in order to knock that stuff down.
Mhm.
And the decision, I guess, was made back in the day when those estimates were provided, that the MUDs did not want to make that capital infrastructure decision. So I felt like with there being changes at the GRP, with additional flow going through that plant, that there's going to be a lot more people jumping on board. And the availability of our option to take more could be diminishing. So, but I don't know what to ask for because I don't know when those infrastructure projects are triggered. So that's why I wanted to know that. So that's the bigger picture is if we do want to go, and that'll be a decision by the MUDs, but I mean, if we do want to go to something higher, I want to know if we got expenses that come with it.
Okay.
So,
So are you talking about chloramines or
We're still,
other byproduct?
we're still on the bleach-free chlorine system.
I knew y'all were handling that up front.
So why are the directors why did they in the past propose higher surface
It
mix?
came with the regulatory requirements of the Lone Star Groundwater District when rules were in place to reduce groundwater usage. When the rules went away, we lowered the percentage of surface water delivery to bare minimum to the 7 participants.
and there's lots of reasons why someone would want to go up. Theoretically, if you're pumping less groundwater, more surface water, then subsidence is less. You're you're working towards better aquifer health or well health. I mean, there's a lot of different things that come into play.
Any idea what this financials would look like to improve? Because I know the capacity with everything on a max day could be maxed. So you're having more surface water.
Right now, of course, you have a very redundant system. You have surface water that's coming in roughly about 8 to 10 million gallons a day. I think we can bring you up to as high as 12 million gallons a day without impacting any other customers. But if it were to go to like 65% surface water, that easily 15, 18 million gallons a day peak. But what it would mean is putting mixers in the storage tanks to keep the water fresh. We would probably have to do a little more boosting of chlorine as it goes into the system, and then the treatment process at the sewer plants to knock off it, bring the alkalinity back more in line with the big discharge. Price wise, we don't know yet because we don't know what those triggers are, whether it's at 55% or 60%. But back in, this was what I was going to mention before, as Eric was talking, back when there was regulatory requirements, if there were regulations that said, okay, you've got to be at 65 or 75% surface water, then the GRP would have paid for these enhancements within the tanks. Now that there's no regulatory requirement, it's voluntary to increase your surface water delivery. It would be voluntary expense on the MUD's part instead of the surface water program.
But given some of the things that have happened, do you think things will change regulatory wise?
I wish I knew. I really do.
Well, that article was pretty powerful about Texas and the water issues that are coming up, particularly in Corpus.
Mhm.
Okay,
Any other questions?
appreciate that.
Thank you.
Okay. Eric, you want a quick summary of maybe our last meeting and the path forward for what we're doing with water lines?
Sure. So, go back a month even, the trustees, directed SRA to work with WWA to come up with a recommendation on how we might go forward with the various projects that were identified in the HDR plan. So SRA and I have had a meeting. We kind of started talking about that. We had a meeting today with HDR, SRA, myself, and a handful of directors that have been interested in the details, where we went through, and the whole concept behind this would be HDR came up with a recommendation on what scope would be included in each of those 7 projects. They were tiered, obviously, but then within each project, there was a specific amount of scope. And, there's a lot of decisions that have to be made within that scope because it's not just as simple as let's just do this one long line of breaks, because there could be a break over here and a break over here. And so there's kind of some spurs that come off of the breaks or the poorly conditioned lines. And so in their recommendations, there's some decisions that they had to make to decide to include certain spurs or little shoot offs of the main problem. And that just, that's some areas that could have some adjustment. So that's actually kind of what we did today with some directors, and saw some opportunity for perhaps some of that refinement of the scope of each of those projects. Now, those projects are already tiered, so I think we're relatively comfortable with how they're tiered. Obviously, Town Center is a little bit different, but that's moving forward the design. So we're going to take today's, information, work a little harder and come with a recommendation to the October trustees meeting, then present to the October director MUD meetings. And then y'all will be asked to direct your trustee to vote at the November meeting on just how to generally move forward with what projects to go where. So what SJ will do with that recommendation is then try to align each of the projects that are delineated in which years. That will allow us in the 10-year project plan, and that will allow us to better be able to give you more insight into what are the ramifications to the customers. Are we going to just raise rates? How does that stair step? How does that look? So once those are put into the 10-year project plan, then we'll be able to do some of those financial analysis on how we're going to get there. But more to come on that. Is that fair? Is that?
Yeah, I guess the takeaway is more information will be presented to the trustees on over the October.
The next time.
You'll be encouraged to watch that if you want as background for the our meeting in October, which we will have a discussion and you guys will provide us guidance for me to take back to the trustee meeting in November.
And we did tape today's meeting. I do think it's valuable for folks to watch. So we're going to post that or send that out here in the next couple of days. Might be interesting for you to see that too when you have time.
Okay, great.
Okay.
Ed, item 18. Anything?
Pretty much talked about that earlier.
During the budget.
Just one probably thing to add to that is that Ed and I went to the township. They asked to get updates on projects. We updated them on Bear Panther Research Project, Drainage Project, the dam project, and the Spring Creek Drainage Project. And when we went to the dam project, that you saw an article in the Courier and the Chronicle that painted a you read it for what it's.
Let me say this. I was gone, right, for 2 weeks. Came back last week, went to church Sunday. People had printed that. They're terrified that the dam is going to break.
Mhm.
I think somehow you guys need to get some information into those, whether op-eds or whatever, to reassure people, because they're convinced that that thing is imminent and they're going to start pressuring the SGRA.
Yeah, sure. We've written that already. And then I'm going back to the, Aubrey and I are going back to the township on Thursday, and we'll be talking about that. If you see any of that, you need to direct them to the last SGRA meeting. Aubrey specifically addressed that in the last SGRA meeting, talking about the safety of the dam, that the dam is safe. Just the meeting in the township kind of went sideways, and we couldn't get them back on track. And then you see in the paper that it sounds like it's falling apart, and that never was the case. So the message is the dam's safe. SGRA continues to do maintenance on the facilities. They continue to inspect it annually. The engineering you just approved. Engineering had already started on the preliminary engineering on the first phase of that. Now you've got funds. You'll have funds after tomorrow. I expect to do all the engineering. So it's not what was painted.
Oh, a lot of people read it.
I'm sure.
It was
Yeah.
there and there.
Yeah, it was spun that way. Sure.
I have a statement from Aubrey that he made clarifying everything. Did you get that?
No,
The river authorities got it.
this all caught me by getting off guard. I mean, I got it on Sunday. And it's like,
Yeah.
John and I have drafted a similar note. We're going to send
Okay.
out
That's 2 minutes.
through our normal
Paul needs a
channels.
quick break, so
Sure.
we can continue discussion, but no voting or anything.
Okay.
Can you, if there's a statement, can you forward it to me?
Oh, yeah, everybody will get it.
Okay.
Yeah, the whole woodlands. Yep.
And the other thing we do get, and we talked about this before, they do monthly inspections. You got an email a couple days ago that shows the, not only monthly, weekly,
Weekly.
every weekly they go out but it states, the dam condition is good. It needs to be maintained. It needs to be, there are, issues that need to be addressed over the next several years as part of the project, but it's not an imminent failure, which is,
Yep.
okay.
And then they do annual inspections, right?
Annual
Through an
and
engineer.
every 5 years. In fact, we've just commissioned the engineer to do the 5-year study investigation that the TCQ requires.
43 and 44.
Yeah, there's we talked last month about going after that Corps of Engineers CAP program. This month, the only update is that's application was submitted, and we have in President's packet for signature a letter of support.
Yeah.
That we'll get from all the MUDs and some other area entities just to support that application.
And 20,
They did not submit, so
no action.
no action.
Is that deferred?
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, I want to put this on every month's agenda for those MUDs involved. And then because I've got to set the agenda now, we can have in advance. I may not get the pass from the contractor. So we didn't get it this.
Brian?
Nothing additional that we haven't already covered.
General managers, we're short on time. I hate to have you cut things out.
I'm done. We've covered all the highlights. I was just going to have John go through anything that he has.
I'll just hit a few quick highlights here as well. You got a communications report on page 59. Wanted to note that we are now in the fourth quarter of our strategic plan, so the focus is on value at this point. I put in the objectives that are listed in the strategic plan so you get a little more familiar with what we're trying to achieve with this focus area. Eric noted the piece coming soon on Bear Branch Dam. Infrastructure renewal communications community working group has their 6th meeting lined up for the 23rd. That's going to be virtual because that was the only way we could get HDR to be able to present on the water line assessment. So that will be happening on the 23rd via Zoom. We have an excellent presentation coming up next week from the USGS. Jason Ramage, who is their hydrologist with USGS, doing his annual summary of their assessment of water table elevations in the region. Director Nelson is intimately involved in facilitating it.
Just gonna, this is new for our group that presents these, that we're gonna do it both, excuse me, remotely as well as in person at Hark, at the Hark facility on Gosling. And so,
Is it during the day?
it's at 6 o'clock is also earlier than normal. So
Right.
6 PM, just down the road. It's at the Hark facility. It was the first Leeds building in Montgomery County and also the first to reach net zero. So it's worth the trip just to see that building.
Yeah, Platinum League, yeah. And you can watch it again on from your couch. We have that will be recorded and we'll make that available as well. And then this last thing, you do have an outreach calendar on page 62 at the bottom there. So come out and see us at an event here. We got a few lined up in the near future.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for being flexible and doing the short version. So trustees, Emily and Eric, anything you want to add?
Talk about the budgets.
Yep, two major things. There was an hour-long presentation on the settlement agreement between Conroe and SGRA. Copy of that's your packet. I believe Shelley emailed out the originals of so in that you'll see there's, right, the paper copies there. There was amendments and supplementals and a global, there is some action items that we're going to need to do over the next year to contemplate, but let's let the dust settle and then we'll get through the global agreement.
And Paul's back,
And they
and we took no votes while you were gone.
Yes, and they did, trustees did approve the budget.
I was gonna ask you, but you talked about me, I hope.
Yeah.
You can watch the recording to see how people.
Any need to recess? Okay. So there's no need to reconvene. Items for future agenda. We have the pay application deferred. We have the water line updates. No business.
Several of these will stay on.
Okay. Anything else anybody wants to add?
Were we gonna look at the contract between SJRA and Mud 7? What we had committed to? We had talked about it a couple meetings ago. I think
I don't,
about how much we have to buy or at what rate, or I can't recall all the specifics.
if you could
So we're-
share some specific, Eric, you guys can talk about, is there an agenda item there?
Yeah, we did talk about us going through the SFDB audit for the treatment plant, and we'll eventually do it for the whole woodlands. That will allow us to give, when it's done, that'll allow us to have better line of sight of where you are with, purchase capacity versus use capacity. Is that?
Yes.
Is that what it was? Yeah.
Yes. you're
So we're
The FFDUEs is a future item
correct.
when it's ready.
Yeah. Maybe not next month, but
Yeah.
possibly.
right. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Anything else? Well, with that, we'll adjourn the meeting.